Hello, everyone. Welcome to Queer Lawyers Speak, hosted by LAGBAC, Chicago's LGBTQ plus bar association. My name is Adam Zebelian. I'm a partner at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck, where I practice family law, and I'm also the current president of LAGBAC, Chicago's LGBTQ plus bar association. I'm very proud to have Judge Jill Rose Quinn here with us today as our guest. The topic is trailblazers, and we certainly have a trailblazer with us today. Judge Quinn sits in the Domestic Relations Division, and when she was elected to the bench, she was the first openly transgender individual to hold public office in Illinois, and she was the third openly transgender person to be elected to judge in the country. So it is with much honor that I introduce Judge Quinn.
Adam, thank you very much for that nice introduction. I appreciate that. And I think just to correct you slightly, I was the fourth openly transgender judge in the country. There are now 7, which is nice to know that once things start to snowball, they really start to snowball. And then I am. Since you brought up your leadership role at LAGBAC, I am now the vice president of the Alliance of Illinois Judges, which is an alliance of gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and allies in the judiciary.
So, and you sit on the board of LAGBAC.
I do sit on the board of LAGBAC.
And you have for a very long time.
I've been, since... probably about 2 years before I was elected.
Yeah, so 2018, I think.
Yeah, 2018 is when I came in.
So, Judge Quinn, you were talking about the Alliance. We actually had some other Alliance members on the show.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to become president in June of the LGBTQ plus judges group, the Alliance. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And so we look forward to having you back on when you're president.
Well, yeah, and I think at that point what I really want to do is work on expanding the Alliance of Illinois Judges, so it's not just the Alliance of Chicago Judges. I'd like to bring in judges from certainly the collar counties, DuPage and Will and Lake County, and then reach out downstate, which would be a great thing because, I mean, let's face it, we're everywhere, and our allies are everywhere. And the more people we reach, the more people we include, the stronger our organization becomes and the louder our message becomes.
That's one thing I think LAGBAC, being a bar association, the Queer Bar Association here in Chicago, is looking to do as well as expand to other areas of the state, right, which maybe aren't as inclusive as Chicago, because those people need support.
Right.
I know later in the show we'll talk about a bill that's pending in the House.
Yes.
Is that right? But before we get to that, and the point that I was going to make is that bill that's pending in the House illustrates how there's many members of our community right now that are suffering, and things are taking a step back,
right,
versus how things are in Chicago, where we can be really who we are. But let's talk about you for a little bit.
Okay.
So tell us your path to the bench.
So I've been practicing law for about, at the time, let's see, I can't do the math. I was practicing law for about 35 years. All of my career was as a general practitioner. I had a neighborhood practice. I did a lot of different kinds of cases, domestic relations, criminal, probate, bankruptcy, real estate, small claims cases, small business representation. I represented as many people as I possibly could, but my focus was really people in the neighborhood. And then at some point in 2001, I began my transition to female, and at that point, I expanded my work to do more work in the LGBTQ community. Particularly, I would help people to do partnership agreements and things like that. Before gay marriage, people were in a position where they couldn't really take advantage of marriage as an inheritance device and as a property sharing device. So I would spend a lot of time creating trusts and wills and powers of attorney for couples, long-term couples who were denied the right to marry. I also, at that point, was working a lot with people who were doing name changes, people who may or may not have had a brush with the law. But I did a lot of work with the community when I started to transition. At some point in 2012, I met the first openly transgender judge in the country, whose name was Phyllis Fry. Phyllis Fry, and I will always give props to Phyllis Fry for being a woman of incredible integrity and strength. Phyllis Fry practiced law as an out transgender attorney in Houston, Texas in 1976. That's another century entirely.
Wow.
And she was so out that if she thought that people thought she was a cis woman, she would say something like, well, I was an Eagle Scout, just so that she would let people know that she was transgender, because of course at the time girls weren't allowed to be Boy Scouts and attain the rank of Eagle Scout. But I met Phyllis, and Phyllis at the time and Vicki Kolakowski from San Francisco were the only two openly transgender judges in the country. And Phyllis said to me, I'm tired of being the only two openly transgender judges. You need to run for judge. And I said, okay. You know, I was pretty much awed. So, but the next time I had the opportunity to put in an application for associate judge, I did it. And I tried that a couple times, and then I was approached in 2018 to run in a sub-circuit in Illinois. And I met a lot of people, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I learned what the politics of becoming a judge was. What's that line from the Stones? You all too well to learn politics, or I'll lay your soul to waste. I think my soul got a little wasted learning about politics, but so I ran for office, and I met people. I learned what I was doing. I had no chance. I was up against a powerhouse who was, from one of those families with relatives in every branch of government in Cook County, and every police district and firehouse in the county. She won the district with like 24,000 votes. I had about 5,500 votes. But I learned at that point. And then in 2020, I ran for judge in Cook County at large. And that was
not in a sub-circuit, so the whole county.
The whole county, right. And then I traveled. It was actually fun. I learned how to build a coalition. I sort of like built a coalition around the northern sub-circuits, the northern, what do you call them, aldermanic wards. And then I expanded, and I got in the part of the north suburbs, Elk Grove Village and Schaumburg and all that area. I pulled them in, and then I scooped around the lakefront and scooped around the southern tier. And it was really, and I sort of surrounded the city. I was successful in my election of winning in every precinct and every township in the county.
I did not know that.
I took every precinct and every township, and I had almost 67% of the vote.
Wow.
Yeah. So and so the rest is, as you say, history. I've been in traffic for 2. I was in traffic for 2 years. Traffic court. Then I went to domestic relations, which was a place really close to my heart, because to me, that's the court of broken hearts. That's the court of human experience, and that's where, everything in the world starts with the family. And everything, and that's what family court is all about. What your relationship is with the people in your family, what your relationship is with, oh gosh, we touch on every issue in family court, don't we?
We certainly do.
Money
which adds to the stress.
Right.
But also the good you can do.
Well, that's true. I mean, I know people, I'm sure the divorce lawyers get a bad reputation. I think there are a lot of people who don't like divorce lawyers, but those people,
I'm not going to comment as a divorce lawyer.
I'm told that those people who don't like divorce lawyers love their divorce lawyer, but hate the other party's divorce lawyer.
That's a fair statement,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
But I think that we do a lot of good work in domestic relations.
Well, we're very happy to have you in domestic relations because it's always good to have not only a judge that practiced and practice a wide variety of things, so you have that broad experience to deal with the multiple types of different legal issues that you encounter in domestic relations court, but also someone with a good heart. And you definitely have that.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And the third thing is that I'm there as a resource for other judges who have to help trans kids and parents who are trying to help or trying to hurt trans kids, and LGB kids as well, and to just sort of. And I feel like, as a judge, I've been able to participate in judicial education to talk to judges in Chicago and around the state about how to talk to LGBTQ people in the courtroom. How to talk to someone about pronouns. I start my call every day with, my name. I say my pronouns. I invite people to tell me what pronouns they want to use when I address them. And I invite them to correct me if I misgender them, and I think that has helped to create, at least in my courtrooms, that has helped to make my courtrooms a safe space, and I hope to do that through education throughout the state.
Now, you teach at the annual judicial school, right?
Yes.
Every year the Illinois Judges Association puts on, is it the Illinois Judges Association?
It's every other year.
That puts on a big seminar for all the judges in the state.
Yes, we got to do 30 credits a year, just like lawyers. Well, we have to do 30. Yeah, we have to do 30 credits. I think every 2 years. I think what is it for lawyers now?
It's 30.
It's 30.
Yeah.
So we have to do the same as lawyers.
Continuing legal education credits to be up on the law and things
Yeah.
like that. So judges have to do that as well.
Judges have to do that as well.
Okay, and you teach those.
I teach those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so everyone's clear, Judge Quinn and I'll never appear in front of her.
Right, no.
We're too close of friends. She's a mentor of mine. We go to dinner often. So you'd recuse yourself if I ever came in front of you.
As I've told people, my dog likes Adam. So I couldn't do anything against Adam in courtroom.
You do have a very sweet dog.
Yes, yes.
Something else happened in 2020, because I was present for it. You got married.
I got married.
To your wife, Stephanie.
Yep, I got married. It was a Zoom wedding, which I want to tell people is a great way to have a wedding. You don't have to pay for everybody to eat.
I was eating and celebrating while I was on the Zoom.
That's good. That's good. But yeah, and it was and everybody from all over the country can come. So
right, and you did.
Yeah, and we had people, and I had now a sitting judge, Judge Strobridge, was my wife's best man. And Judge Shapiro married us. So it was
both in domestic relations.
Both in domestic relations.
We're a big division.
Yes, we are. 40 in.
I think there's 40 judges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. That's 10% of the judiciary, I think, roughly.
Well, again, not to like turn this into a show as a public relations arm for domestic relations, but I think we have the most cases of any division.
We have. It feels that way at least.
Yeah.
So, Judge, you brought some paperwork today.
I did.
About a bill that's pending in the House. Why don't you tell the audience about that?
Well, you know what, I like everybody else in life. I've started to read things by just looking at the title and then skimming it. So I haven't done it. Now I don't do that my work. So, but there's a bill that's keeping me up at night, and it's in committee before the House, and it's
the U.S. House.
The U.S. House, and it's called the Defining Male and Female Act of 2024, and it basically says that it basically says anything to do with gender doesn't make any sense. It's Congress saying we know everything there is about science and psychology, so and biology, and so we're just going to put this this bill together, and we're going to define male and female as essentially sex assigned at birth. Whatever.
So that's what's pending right now in committee.
Yes, an individual's sex can be observed or clinically verified at or before birth. In human beings, there are two and only two sexes, male and female, which refers to the two body structures, phenotypes. I guess they had to throw in a word.
A scientific word.
Which corresponds to one or the other gamete, sperm for males and ova for females. So, and as the article says, the article is by, I'll find her name so that, and let me preface this too by, I have my goddaughter who is now, I guess 52, over Thanksgiving. I just told her how horrified I was about the recent events, and not so much just the election, but the aftermath of the election. Let me say this. I'm not allowed to talk about politics, and I'm not supposed to talk about politics. So this is what I would say if I was allowed to talk about politics. If I was allowed to talk about politics, I would talk about the fact that the second most powerful, or perhaps the most powerful person in Washington right now is unelected. He's a billionaire known as Elon Musk. That man is a man who has disavowed his own transgender daughter.
Yeah.
Disavowed her.
And he is informing policy at the national level.
And I don't know about you, but I did not vote for him.
I certainly did not.
And he's running this stuff, and he's amazingly anti-transgender.
Right. And that's not a secret. He's made that very clear on social media and Twitter or X.
And as we went through the last election, towards the end, the Republicans pulled out all the stops and said, well, we better raise the transgender bogey. And they started putting all this advertising out about, boys in girls' lockers room and all that stuff. Remind me who was running against, who was running for Texas and running for Senate in Texas.
Ted Cruz?
Yeah, but someone who was running against him. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but the person who was running against Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz is bad enough. But all of a sudden, he started putting out anti-trans stuff. I was in Texas, and I'm watching a commercial, and it's about how horrible it is, how this candidate doesn't support boys and girls locker rooms, and it's the Democratic candidate.
Wow. And
so it got to the point where we were such a bogey person and that's just snowballed.
Right. And to see commercials on television, national television, CNN,
right.
Trump was putting out commercials where she's not for you, she's for they, them.
Right.
I mean, that's to the core of who you are, and you're watching this occur out on national television. It's got to be so disheartening and difficult. I mean, as a community member it is, but I'm not transgender, so I can only imagine how difficult it is to see who you are used as a way to win an election in a negative light. It's got to be so painful.
Well, let me back up for 1 second and make sure I tell everybody. This is HR 9218. And as I said, when I went home for Thanksgiving, my goddaughter told me about a website that sends you all sorts of stuff, supposedly to uplift you, but really what it does is scare the crap out of you. But the Defining Male and Female Act, it goes on to talk about gender roles, and it goes on to this bill can be used to basically deny women rights. And codify.
Because it's defining roles of the two sexes?
It opens the door for that with language in this bill. With respect to the two sexes, male or female, separate facilities or sports leagues established because of or organized according to physical differences between the sexes do not constitute unequal treatment under the law. Physical differences between male and females are enduring, and the two are not fungible. Gender is not a synonym for sex and does not mean a synonym for terms or ideas such as gender identity, experienced gender, gender expression, or gender roles. You can't use words like gender roles, which they are repeating to make it harder to argue that women are being oppressed. It's not a role.
And what people may not know, especially here in the Chicago area and in Illinois generally, is legislation like this around the country has been occurring in state legislatures.
Right.
And now, with the current political environment, it's happening at the federal level.
Right.
Which is, and it's only the beginning.
Right. No, it is.
I hope I'm wrong on that, but if this is already in committee, I don't know how it's going to look moving forward.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, but if we don't wake up, it's all going to have happened. You know, we don't need legislative bodies without scientific input, without scientific testimony. We don't need legislative bodies deciding medicine or science.
Well, and that's why it's so great that we have people like you, Judge, who not only is open about who you are, but also there to mentor other people and show them that it's okay, even by coming on this show, and that they'll be okay if the community's here for them.
You have to be honest about yourself. You have to be who you are.
Judge, do you have any advice for maybe a young person at home thinking about that's a member of our community or not a member of our community that's thinking about going to law school or becoming a judge?
Absolutely go to law school. Absolutely become a judge. It's you know, I think a legal education is as essential to people as a grade school education in this society today, because it teaches you how to cut through a lot of the nonsense that you're handed. Imagine if I had a legal education when I was in parochial school learning religion. I would have blown everything out of the water. I think people should go to law school. Law is the key. The role of a lawyer is absolutely essential to the protection of people's rights.
Now that you're on the bench, do you miss being a lawyer?
No, not really.
That's
I'm
fair.
glad I was a lawyer because, and for a while, I've been on for 4 years now. For a while, when people would ask me legal advice, and then I'd say, I can't do that. And I would miss it. But I don't miss it anymore. I much prefer telling people to find an advocate, such as yourself.
Oh, well.
and then go ahead and pursue your cause of action.
Very good, very good. So, Judge, we have a thing on here where we ask every guest to tell their coming out story.
Okay.
What is your coming out story?
Well, I've known that I was female since I was 4 years old. I suppressed that identity until I was 46 years old. And I spent an awful lot of time just in turmoil and in torment because I had absolutely no idea. I absolutely felt like I was faking it through all of my life. I felt like, I just felt like I was never comfortable. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important that young adults who are transgender, that they have access to treatment, because there's a lot of my life that's been lost because I felt like I could not participate in it because I was conflicted. I did not really know I was not able to be who I was. So I came out. I was a lawyer with my own private practice. I had to come out to all my clients, and I had to, give them the freedom to say, well, I'm not gonna stay with you, or I am gonna stay with you. Most people did.
They stayed with you.
85 to 90% of the people stayed with me, which, I guess I don't know, that's a tribute to people. Many people can see through bullshit. Don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
You can.
Oh, okay. And I sort of had to put my relationships with my family at risk. My sister, who I was very close to, really took the position that she never wanted a sister, you know, and that was difficult because I'd always thought we were close. My brother, with whom I wasn't close, said, "It's fine, whatever," you know, and that was fine. And I had to work through when I transitioned. My daughter was in 7th grade, which is a terrible time for young women anyway.
Yeah, middle school.
And to have this happen to her was awful, and it took us about 5 years before we were laughing and having a good time together. But that relationship did last.
And now you're very close.
Now
you have a great
now
relationship.
We're extremely close. So I mean, and then at that point, once I had transitioned, once I was living as a woman, I realized that was the way I should live. And I realized that, I mean, I don't like to think that part of your life is wasted, but I could have started a lot earlier and missed a lot less. But,
well, Judge, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and who you are, and our community thanks you, not only the LGBTQ plus community, but the general community here in Chicago and beyond. So thank you, Judge, for sharing today.
Thanks.
And thank you to all of you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.